8 o'clock, Sunday the 16th of September 2012, and the Showbus site at the Imperial War Museum, Duxford, is just about ready to welcome hundreds of buses and coaches to this annual event. Museum staff and volunteers run through final preparations at the welcome lanes. Over the next 4 hours, some 500 vehicles are expected to arrive, each with an allotted space within the show, revealed to them after they pass through the arrivals lounge. Well, it is an airfield. Whichever route visiting buses take to reach Duxford, they enter the site at the western end, where each one is allocated to the various display areas, either alongside the Tank Museum, beside the American Air Museum, along the runway, and in 2012 outside the airspace hangar. Access to Duxford couldn't be easier, as the airfield stands next to the M11 motorway and the cross-country A505. This year, in celebration of the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, a special road run was organised along the A505 from Royston to Duxford. More of that later. An early arrival that sneaked in through the guardroom gate was Stagecoach London's Mercedes Citaro 23104, which the company had kindly provided to sit alongside the Vision sales stand for the day. Based at the Selkent Division's Bromley garage, the bus is one of 13 introduced on Route 227 in the summer of 2012. As the Merc manoeuvres into position, some of the camera crews who filmed this programme sort out their kit. You can also see that last year's promise has been fulfilled. Bigger tent, smaller bus. With several cups of coffee downed, the camera crews are in position by 8:30, in readiness for what's best described as the onslaught. One of the first arrivals is this Bedford VAL 14 with a Plaxton body, originally fitted to a different coach, LAL 547E. The twin-steer Bedford was introduced in 1962, so a number were invited to celebrate their half-century at this year's Showbus. Next in, this lovely Northwestern Leyland Tiger Cub, number 796. The body is by Willowbrook, and the type dates back to March 1960. Out on the A505, a 2-month-old Wrightbus Eclipse Urban 2, number 21233, and a 2-month-old Enviro body Scania 15814, both from Stagecoach's Cambridge busway operation. This Bristol VRT was originally delivered to Hanson Dorset as number 3448. It moved to Wiltshire Dorset in 1983 and became number 4448 until withdrawal in 2008. Incidentally, 2012 was Showbus's 40th anniversary. In the arrivals area at baggage collection, a Leyland Atlantean, formerly London Country's AN264. The bus later worked for Maidstone and District and London Links. Close behind is another version of the Atlantean, built 11 years earlier. This one is in Hull Corporation livery and running as number 270. It's followed in by a trio of Cozy's coaches. Hitching a lift to the event, this 1970 Ford R192 Duple. It belongs to Sharps and has never been registered, so there's only 250 miles on the clock. London is always well represented at Showbus. RF271 appears at the M11 roundabout. The Leyland National was also celebrating its 40th anniversary in 2012. This particular one, number 728, now appears for Nottingham Heritage Vehicles as a mobile sales stand. It's entering the airfield by the guardroom gate, close to the main sales area. Never mind all the anniversaries, AEC celebrated its centenary in 2012, so Showbus was another opportunity to exhibit its many products. This is a Reliance with Harrington body in the original 1964 Greenslades Tours livery. Behind is Chambers' 2009 Iris bus 397E with Marco Polo body. Coming up the slip road from the M11, 1951 vintage RT2688, leading a bus 61 years its junior, the new face of London, the Boris Master, in this case LT7. When the pair arrive at the airfield, the difference in length as well as width is more apparent. The RT, at 27 feet 6 inches, could seat 56, with no more than 5 allowed to stand on the lower deck. The new bus is a third bigger, at just under 36 feet 9 inches. It can seat 62, accommodate a wheelchair, and still have room for 25 standing, producing TfL's target capacity of 87 plus. Back out on the road, Potteries Municipal Transport's L453, a Leyland Titan, nears journey's end after its run from Guildford. Norfolk County Services 2003 Dennis Javelin with Caetano bodywork FJ03 VMG threads its way past the American Air Museum towards its display spot. The AEC centenary aspect of this year's Showbus ensured lots of route masters in all variations. Here, for example, are RML 262A, RM 349 and RMC 1497 on the slip road. Eastern National 392, a 1966 Bristol MW6G with Eastern Coachworks body. Alpine Travel's 1993 Birkhoff Excellence bodied Scania K113 heads for the pay booths. Nottingham City Transport Scania CN94UB number 209 is branded for Route 34. Sharp's 1972 AEC Reliance with Plaxton body, FRA 521L, heads this little procession. 40 years younger is Tate Travel's Enviro 200 1120. Fowler's Travel brought a DAF SB 300 Plaxton Prima Interurban R449 SKX. And Volvo B12 Jonquière XDO 515. Twin Steer Bedford VAL 70 with Plaxton body UFX 360L, new in 1973, heads for its display stand in front of the American Air Museum. The VAL 70 replaced the VAL 14 chassis in 1967. It had a slightly bigger engine made by Bedford, while the earlier buses were Leyland powered. A slightly newer coach in the shape of two SXB, Sharps of Nottingham's Volvo B12 Van Hool Elysee. Back at the airfield we find Stagecoach Megabus number 50245, a Van Hool Astromega TDX 25. Megabus provides intercity coach services across Britain. The next arrivals are former London Leyland National LS444 and a Bristol VRT, once Eastern National's 3072. With the Leyland National stuck at customs, Routemaster 291 heads down the taxiway towards the London buses display section, chasing the Eastern National Bristol, which probably shouldn't be in the London section. Panther Tours 1982 Mercedes Neoplan Cityliner heads past the museum on the A505. Well, yes, of course it's pink. It's Panther Tours. Keep up. Finally, paperwork in order, LS444 is allowed in. This one entered service on Red Arrow routes 500 and 507 in 1981 from the then base at Victoria. In later years the bus transferred to the 607 route out of Uxbridge and was later used as a trainer. It was withdrawn in 1999 and preserved the same year. Silverdale's Alexander RH-bodied Volvo Olympian RH205, built in Belfast for use in Dublin. Another former Hanson Dorset Bristol VRT heads for the show. Originally 3325, it was renumbered 4325 when it became part of Wilson Dorset in 1983. This AEC Reliance with a row body was built in 1958. G341, a 1958 Bristol MW6G with ECW bodywork, was converted into a service vehicle in 1971. New to East Yorkshire in 1981, Bristol VRT number 526. New to Stagecoach Midlands in 2011, Enviro 400 15750. Crossley DD42-3 in Sunderland Corporation livery as number 13. RML 2412 makes the trek along the taxiway. After serving its first 4 years in the central area, it transferred to London Country in 1970 when the bus operation split into two parts. After another 9 years, it returned to central London and went red again. It became part of the London General fleet at privatisation, but since it was preserved in 2005, the bus has reverted to 1970s condition. The Trotters Ethnic Tours Leyland Titan PD2 is signal checked. Leicester City Transport's number 190 and AEC Renown with East Lancs body was built in 1965. Its restoration took from 1995 until 2000. Another Bristol VRT from 1969. 1904 was built for the Lincolnshire Road Car Company. A 1968 Bristol RE, Eastern Counties number RL681, heads for the show past the public car park. RM 1138 was new in 1962 and spent most of its life at Hounslow Garage. It was withdrawn in 1994, but remained in the LRT reserve fleet in 1995. 3 years later, the bus was bought for preservation. The owner of RML 2740 makes a political statement in various ways. This one was new in 1967 and ended its working life with First Centre West in 2004. It's followed in by RML 898 and RM 822. The RML made 2 separate visits to the USA. In 1962 it went to San Francisco, and in 1963 to Louisiana, Tennessee and Texas. (822) overtakes 898 in the display area and parks up in its designated spot. (898) shunts into position as Stagecoach London's first Scania Omni City does likewise. Grant Palmer's Enviro 200 YX12DHG was one of 2 entering service for the company in Luton in the summer of 2012. Meanwhile, at the other end of the site, an AEC Reliance with a Harrington body, 487 GFR, passes the Route Masters. (558) FBF, a beautifully restored Bedford SB8 Duple Super Vega, previously used as a traveller's vehicle. And now the first of 2 bendy buses at the show. This is Morton's number 3111, a Volvo B10 with a Van Hall T8 Elise body. Built in 1996, it was formerly with Ulsterbus. Originally built for Jersey, number 71, a 1948 Morris Commercial CVF with a Wadham body. NKY 161, a 1957 Bedford SB3 with Yates Europa body. RML 2271 is still showing the Route 12 branding it carried on withdrawal in 2003. The Uno contingent arrives, a right bus door forward streetlight, an Optare Solo hybrid and a Mercedes Citaro Arctic. Close aboard, Eastern Counties Bristol RE RS 658. And RT 2083. Another of the Central London Leyland Nationals, LS35. This is 36222, one of 100 brand new Wrightbus Gemini 2s ordered by First Group to work public shuttles to the various Olympics venues. Former Trent Leyland National GNU 568N rolls in. Working its way through the early arriving visitors is Nottingham City Transport's number 930, a Scania N230 with Optare body.
What it costs or?
No. The unique Volvo B9 MCV double-decker VM1. Like last year, it's still being evaluated by Go Ahead in East London. A trio of Volvo Olympians with Northern Counties Palatine bodies from Sullivan's, NV26, NV122 and NV44. LOA 400X was the last Metro bus at Travel West Midlands Perry Bar Garage when it was withdrawn in 2003 and sold to GH Watts. Eastern Nationals 1103, a Bristol LH built in 1977. No stranger to the sight, Mini Dart Pointer AE51 VFX, repainted by Stagecoach Cambridge in June 2012 for the hourly shuttle to Duxford. Two more coaches, Crawley's Volvo B10 Van Hool Elise and a Leyland Tiger with Plaxton Supreme 4 bodywork. Sullivan's really pulled out the stops to support this year's show. Here's ELV3, a Volvo B7TL with Millennium Viking body, one of several double-deckers added to the fleet in 2012 to work newly won school contracts. A pair of Centrebus Trident lowlines, 878 and 877, arrive on site. By around 10:30, the arrivals area was much busier. Stagecoach's Mega Decker waits its turn, as does this Bedford VAL14 with a Harrington body. This view highlights the huge variety of vehicles attending Showbus each year. Go Coach's imported King Long City bus had only been in the country for a week. It's followed around the roundabout by RF 518, which have been in the country a good deal longer. RT 1702 is next, a visitor to 8 European countries in 1950. This is Silver Stars number 26, a Leyland Tiger Cub with a Harrington body. Another Bedford VAL 70, VBD 310H. This one was built in 1970. This procession is headed by the supercar, so-called, from the Epping-and-Ongar Railway. And RT 1700, a regular on the railway's bus shuttles. Three right bus Geminis now, from left to right, East Yorkshire's Diamond Jubilee liveried number 713, Arriva Midlands 4746 and Wardle's 4776. Travel West Midlands Metrobus ROX 618Y pulls up alongside classmate D957NDA for Time Saver. Maidstone and District's Leyland National SKR 556R leads this group. Next is an RML ER880. And then three open-top buses. VNB 108L, a Leyland Atlantean with part roll body. Arriva Original Tours VLY 606, a 2005 Volvo B7TL with AATS body, and from the same operator, OA 328, an Olympian with an Alexander RH body. Next is Elderton Coaches KDT 281P, a Bedford YRQ with Plaxton Elite 3 bodywork. Bringing up the rear, UWA 312L, a Leyland Atlantean which came home from Australia in March 2012. It worked sightseeing tours in Australia, but before that was regular worker in Sheffield. The last bus to arrive, apart from those in the Diamond Jubilee Parade, is RML 2644, still wearing the same paint as the day it was withdrawn from Putney Garage in 2005. The bus makes the dash for the London display area, where you'll be seeing it a lot closer later. With the entrance finally in and marshalled, let's have a look around the show. This is the diverse lineup outside the American Museum. Just behind this area is the Mercedes Citaro again. There were the usual high number of sales stands in 2012. The market area at Showbus is one of the best places each year to seek out elusive items, and at Duxford you have the airborne version of the Trident and a BOAC VC10 as a backdrop. All the major players are here, like Key Publishing. There's also plenty of choice if you're hoping to pick up a piece of memorabilia. Or maybe a photograph or a model. And let's not forget quality DVDs and books. There are plenty of food vans spread around the site. And you can have a beer poured from a converted DAF SB220 Hispano. Showbus is also the place to meet up with old friends. But for many, it's the best chance of the year to photograph buses you don't see every day, either in long shot or in close-up. We start in the westernmost field of the Duxford site, where we find mostly coaches, but with some interesting buses thrown into the mix for good measure. While you're parked with a captive audience, you may as well take some bookings if you have tours to offer. This is a 2009 Iris Bus 397E with Marco Polo body, operated by Chambers. And this is how the wheelchair lift works. And of course it all packs away neatly out of sight after you finish using it. Modern engineering, eh? The two Centrebus Trident low lines take their place beside Briar Lane's Trident ALX 400, formerly with Stagecoach London as TA385. Seemingly in the wrong display area, RM613 and RML 2690. The longer Routemaster has had its lowest saloon converted into a bar. Next is former Thamesdown Leyland Fleet Line, number 202. While this Atlantean with a row body is Ipswich Open Topper number 9, normally engaged in sightseeing. The internal shuttle bus, an ADL Enviro 300, takes a brief break from shuttling. Delane of Bourne in Lincolnshire brought both 12 and 62 plated Volvo B9 Geminis to the show. Note the DBL suffixes. A trio of Stagecoach Enviro 400s. 62 plated 15838 appears on Oxford to Swindon services, 15750 works in and around Northampton, and 201 is based in Reading. AE12 is one of 6 new Enviros taken on by Sullivans to work TfL Route 298 at the start of 2012. As the camera pans round, you get a better idea of the sheer scale of the show. The twin steer Bedfords formed a display of their own in front of the American Air Museum. On the road to nowhere, this VAL 70 with a Plaxton body. This one has the duple body. On its way to the show, it suffered a blowout on the A14. To save time, a spare was fitted from a sister bus because it was easier to reach. But once at Duxford, the Telford bus group removed the loaned wheel and put their own on. Naturally, a highly technical manoeuvre like this attracts an audience.
It's a foul, it won't run. You take it and go anyway. No, it needs the rocks. I'll swap you. No, shit for rocks. What about the same place? Let's turn the wheel a bit, though.
This Bedford QL with a Summit body used to work in Malta. A former Shearing's Bedford OP Duple, built in 1947, lines up with a similar ex-Western National model from 1950, and one built the same year for Safeway. Slightly newer, from 1965, is this Midland General Bristol MW6G, alongside the Eastern National 392 we saw earlier. And finally in this section, Leyland Titan L453 and Crossley DD42 number 13. In honour of the Diamond Jubilee, the people behind Showbus organised a road run from Royston to Duxford involving 60 vehicles, one from each year of the Queen's reign, culminating in a parade at the airfield. We begin in Royston as the participants assemble. Each bus or coach showed the year it was representing on the windscreen. The cavalcade assembled in York Way and Orchard Road in Royston, and many of the drivers entered into the spirit of the occasion. 1955's representative, DCC 125, awaits departure time. The plan was to run the collection in order from 1952 to 2012, so there was a great deal of shuffling about before the off. The logistics of organising something like this are truly daunting, a bit like herding cats I imagine, and the situation wasn't helped by some owners pulling out at the last minute. Many of the drivers also added flags or bunting to their buses for the run. One even managed to use the route number blind to form part of the year he was representing, so watch out for that one. Start time was 11:30, and with the convoy assembled as best as circumstances allowed, somebody waved a metaphorical flag. With a number of roundabouts on the first part of the journey onto the A505 dual carriageway and local traffic to contend with as well, keeping the parade in one long crocodile was always a forlorn hope. But never mind, sit back and enjoy the various groups as they make their way from Royston to the Duxford site, led by what I can only describe as a safety car. Well, it's hardly Formula One, is it? Bringing up the rear, Red Rose's Enviro 200 in its special paint job to celebrate the Jubilee. Meanwhile, the head of the procession is arriving at Duxford. Of course, once on site, they all had to go through the mandatory check-in procedure. At this stage, extra buses and coaches to fill the missing years prepare to join the parade. And as soon as the road contingent had cleared customs, the groups marshalled themselves into proper date order. The parade begins, so as to make room for the buses still at check-in. One of the double-deckers joining in at Duxford races down the taxiway to find its correct place in the lineup, with a bike as a safety car this time. And still they come, arguably many more than 60 by this time because of the Jubilee livery contingent at the back from identical recent years. But anyway, as the parade turns for the run back along the airfield, here's the details of each one as they appeared. Representing accession year 1952 is Thames Valley number 616, a Bristol LWL 6B with ECW coachwork. Coronation year 1953 produces Guy Special GS32, also with an Eastern Coachworks body. Next, 1955 built Bedford SBG Duple DCC 125. That's followed by RM8, the first production route master to be delivered to London Transport and the only one completed in 1958. In 1959, however, produced RM9 and many others. From 1960 and AEC Reliance with duple body SHL 917. 1961's representative is YBD 201, a Bristol MW 5G with ECW body. A Bristol low decker, slightly lower since its top deck haircut, represents 1962. 882 VFM was formerly Crossfield's DFG 72. A Royal Blue Bristol MW6G, number 1410, is in line for 1963. 1965's entrant is Birmingham City Transport Daimler Fleet Line CRG6, number 3472. 1966 rolls around. United Counties number 712, a complete Bristol below-decker. RML 2729 works as a tour bus these days, and here flies the flag for 1967. By now, the first buses were finishing parading and parking up. (1968) produced Go Goodwin's AEC Reliance JRV 500F. From 1969, a Bedford SB3 with dual body TAO 179, followed by 1972's RP90 and AEC Reliance with a Park Royal body. This slightly startling double-decker is a 1973 Leyland Atlantean HGD 903L. It's followed by the diminutive London Country Bristol BN45 from 1974. In Lothian colours, number 121, a Bedford YRT with Alexander body, representing 1975. The Volvo Ailsa you saw rushing along earlier is West Midlands PTE's 4738 from 1976. One year on, this Plaxton-bodied Leyland Leopard emerged, CSU 937. (1978) produced DAF MB200 Plaxton YJN 455S. From 1979, a Leyland Leopard PSU3 with dual coachwork. 1337 is in Southdown National livery. Eastern National represents 1980 with this Bristol VRT SL3 number 3072. Next, 1981's Bedford VAS5 dual LPY 721W. A Volvo B10M and Plaxton Supreme combination FAH 275Y built in 1982. A similar chassis but with Van Hool coachwork represents 1983. Eagle Coaches MXI 183. The Wigglesworth sisters took care of 1984 with this Bedford VAS Plaxton combo TER 840. 1986 is represented by Bullock's BUI 484, a Leyland Tiger with Plaxton Paramount 3500 bodywork. From 1987, this is Trekker Travels E208 EPB, a Dennis 425 dual. By now, a bit of a traffic jam was forming as the entrants tried to reach their parking pitches. But still they kept coming. A Leyland Olympian from 1989, Panther Travels F639 LMJ. Crusader Holidays Van Hool T815 SIJ 8661 starts another decade. Skipping a year, we reach this Dennis Dart with a right body, DW317 in Thameside livery, built in 1992. The first tri-axle in the parade is from 1993, a Scania K113 with Birkhoff body, Alpine's K848 EEC. An Alexander Dash with a Volvo B6 chassis, formerly Eastern Counties number 69, is the entrant for 1994. It's followed by 1995's M718 KRH, a Volvo B10 with a Northern Counties body. Then, from 1998, a Volvo Olympian R413 LHK. Go Whippet provided a 2001 Volvo B7 with East Lancs body, FE51 RAU, and from 2002 Scania L94 Wrightbus AF52 VMD. S222GEN is a Generation Travel Citra 415 HD from 2003. Skipping another year to 2005, we reached the Cambridge Learning Bus, a DAF truck chassis with a hind body. Panther Travels W3 TRU, a Volvo B10M with Plaxton Panther bodywork. Yes, well spotted, it's out of position. It was built in 2000. Moving rapidly on to 2006, we have this Volvo B7 Gemini. East York's number 713 is also sporting a special Jubilee livery. Now everyone says this is a Volvo B9, even though Sullivan's WVL2 was built in 2007, so make up your own mind. Go Goodwin's triaxle Volvo B10 Van Hool is seriously out of position. It's 1985's entrant. Reverting to sequence, this Volvo B7 RLE Plaxton represents 2009. Whippet's AE59 EHR is in Cambridge busway colours, and if you look closely, you can see the guide wheel just behind the door. (2011) produced this Mercedes Citaro, your bus's number 3001. Coming right up to date, this is a 2012 Enviro 400 SN12 EHM, supplied by Norfolk Green, so it must be a hybrid. It's driven by Claude Greengrass from Heartbeat. And still they kept coming. From 2008, the Red Rose Jubilee Special you saw earlier in Royston. Stagecoach's 39651 commemorates Aldershot and District Centenary rather than the Jubilee. This is a MAN 14240 with an Enviro 200 body, and it's also from 2008. Another Jubilee bus, 2009 Scania N230 Enviro 400, stagecoach is 15586. It's followed by a celebratory Optare Solo from 2001, Go Goodwin's Solo 8. And for reasons I cannot explain, the last vehicle in the lineup is RML 2318 from 1965. In the end, producing a bus from every year of the Queen's reign proved the challenge too far, but let us not quibble. This was a fascinating exercise, which, if nothing else, emphasised the sheer diversity, not to say longevity, of the second Elizabethan age. As we don't do interactive DVDs, well, not yet anyway, we'll be hopping on a bus to reach the final section of the programme. This is the Enviro 300 site shuttle, which we join as it approaches the American Air Museum from a westerly direction. As we progress, watch how many pedestrians aren't fitted with rear view mirrors. We're now passing round the back of the museum. As the shuttle approaches the middle of the site, the driver encounters more problems with people wandering in the road. Anyone would think they paid to get in. The Enviro passes the vision stand and then heads off around the back rows past the guard room entrance. The direct route to the other end of the site, through the sales stand area, would take, well, ages. On the left is the airfield's fire station. As we continue behind the hangars, Mott's Volvo Olympian returns to base after providing one of the Duxford village tours. At the eastern end of the site, we passed the Hurricane on a stick, and then the visitors' car park. Finally, we close in on our destination, the London buses display outside the airspace building. As I mentioned earlier, AEC celebrated its centenary in 2012, so everyone expected a larger than usual contingent of ex-London AECs at the show, and we weren't disappointed. For the sake of neatness, I can't think of any other reason, they were grouped together according to type. So this is the standard length RM grouping, obviously, and yes, they were in numerical order too. There was the usual big contingent of RMLs. You saw this one earlier, scuttling past at the beginning of the programme. This is a much closer view of its worn paint. As you can see, it's still clinging to its former Route 14 identity in the canopy number box. The RMLs appear to have magically parked themselves in sequence too. .880 has reverted to its original extended route master designation. Aha! The bus spotters of the future. I knew there must be somewhere. Both Routemaster coach types were represented, the short RMCs 1507 and 1497 and the green line version of the RML, in this case RCL 2233, which I found particularly interesting. The interior has been fully reupholstered after a group of owners got together and ordered the quantity of the original pattern material. So this is the interior that would have greeted you if you'd boarded the coach in the summer of 1965, when it was brand new and working Route 726 from Reigate Garage. Reupholstered, of course, means new foam cushions too, because you can't just wrap new material around worn out seats. Even the overhead luggage racks have been carefully restored to original condition with matching maroon string. All in all, a beautiful job and hugely nostalgic for people of my generation. Moving back a few decades, historically speaking, we come across this impressive lineup of Regents and Regals. Let's pick a couple of the RTs at random. RT 1700 is in the dark green of the pre-1970 period, when the country area was still part of London Transport. RT 2688 must feature in lots of books, because a summary of its well-travelled history appears on the rear panel, something which must appeal enormously to hard-pressed researchers, like me. Just along from the double-deckers and standing rather forlornly on its own, T792, a 1948 AEC Regal 3 with Man Egerton bodywork, and a regular both at Duxford and on the bus rally scene generally. Moving up a generation, single-decker wise, Red RFs 319 and 518. Now this is what some people would call a proper one. Not totally renewed internally, but with the seats in the half-worn condition which is so evocative of the day-to-day London transport experience. Like the Queen, Red RFs are celebrating their 60th year in 2012. They were first introduced onto Route 210 from Muswell Hill on the 11th of September 1952, but you'll know that already if you've been following the various anniversary running days. RF 518 is dressed for East London Route 208, which once ran between Bromley by Bow and Clapton Pond and converted to Red RFs in January 1953. This bus is also a regular on the rally scene, and you can watch a slideshow of its 2010 restoration on YouTube if you're connected to the Web of Wonder. Like the other types, all the RFs were grouped together at this year's Showbus. Here's the full lineup of 6, 3 of each paint-wise. But not all of them had a driver like RF271. On the fringes of the London bus display, a contrast between old and very new. And TfL's VP20, the so-called missing bus from the original batch of 20, which eventually became part of East Thames buses. Although this one takes part in special London events, its latest day-to-day use is as a tree lopper. Coming up, a final panorama of the London display, looking uncannily like the outside of Aldenham Works in the 1960s. We round off with the Stagecoach London Fly Past, which this year takes place in line astern rather than the Red Arrow style echelon the extra display space made possible in 2011. The Leighton Engineers Band leads the procession. Then comes Trident TA1, or 17,001 if you prefer. It's followed by Raynham's 15001, the first Scania Omni City delivered to East London Bus. The Enviro 10123 is a recent delivery to Leighton Garage for the upgrading of Route 275. And finally, Bromley's Mercedes 23104. Completing the year's business at Showbus 2012.